Hi there. Welcome. Thanks for coming back. I'm Bob Thompson, and I'm welcoming you to the Philanthropic Planner. Philanthropic Planner, we've been around more than 9 years already, and people ask, what do you do that for? Boring subject of philanthropy, and what's the purpose? Well, we want to share with our viewers what other people are doing in philanthropy. We want to talk about the boring subject. You don't have to be a multimillionaire to be a philanthropist. There are a lot of ways of giving back to the community, but the primary purpose of the program is to share with you the importance of philanthropy to the local community, to the state and region, to the country, and we have to say globally. Philanthropy is taken for granted. We know that it's out there. We know that nonprofits raise money, but what are you and I doing? Volunteering is a big part of philanthropy, and we share that with you. We have guests, and today we have a guest. But the important thing is to create some meaningful dialogue about what we can do. We can do more. And in today's economy, in today's economic environment, the demands are there, but the resources to meet those services that are needed, they lack. So we want to bring back some of the enthusiasm that we had before 2008, 2009. We're kind of coming up to that level where we were 4 or 5 years ago, and that's good, but we can do more. Today's guest is Sharon Bean. Sharon is the Director of Charitable Estate Planning for the American Heart. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you.
People who see us once in a while, and really the people who see and view this is my wife once in a while. One of my daughters said, "You look terrible, Dad, you didn't do this." But, and then my mother, God bless her, before she died. So I knew I had 3, but people that view us really are surfing during commercials between baseball games or football games, or actually the Philanthropic Planner is designed for people, you and me, philanthropists, but for planners, for advisors. We've had attorneys on as guests, and trust officers and accountants and so on, financial planners. So it's important to visit with Sharon Bean. American Heart Association. Let me, before I jump in and visit with Sharon. Rob Lohr and I at the firm were in Boston this last weekend for a 3-day conference. And one of the keynote speakers was a physicist, professor, and I forget what university. And he was talking about some of the things that are not just happening today, but that will come in 5 and 10 and 15 years. And I was thinking about Sharon and the American Heart Association. This gentleman physicist talked about how we're able to now, and research, develop certain parts of organs or whatever from our own genes, and talk about an ear or whatever, and a valve, and a heart valve from your own genes. And in the next 5, 10, 15 years, we're going to see more of that. But I have to stop because Karen knows back in the camera world that I will talk forever, so I've got to talk to Sharon. Tell me what you do. You're in a great area representing a great organization.
I am. I've worked for Heart about 22 years. I've done all kinds of fundraising. And what I've done most recently, the last 10 years or so, is work in the charitable estate planning field, which is essentially people who would like to include the American Heart Association or Stroke Association in their estate plans. Okay.
Now, you represent quite a geographical area, I understand.
I work in 3 states, generally the tri-state area, and there are coworkers just like me all across the country.
Okay. The American Heart is an interesting organization. We have a number of our clients that, in fact, you just met a gentleman that says he annually.
Yes, we
contributes
have a lot of
but,
really loyal
yeah.
supporters, which is wonderful.
Now, the raise of money in my introductory, these are difficult times. We are, and I'll talk on the charity side, development side, everybody's competing for the same dollar. And even though we have the capacity to give more, to gift more, you're in an interesting part of the geography of this country because they don't like me to say this, but they're not as much on the giving side as other parts of the country. And I shouldn't say that, and I apologize. But in my travels to the Midwest, there seems to be areas where they communicate more about philanthropy and the importance of philanthropy. But the American Heart is interesting because of the success of their events. A larger percentage comes to the American Heart than some of the other large charities, percentage-wise.
It does. Well, one of the reasons why I think that happens is that our events are not just designed to raise money, but they're also educational opportunities. They are, because they're cause-focused,
Right.
coming out to a heart walk, for example, is about getting healthier and
Right.
doing something great for your own heart. Coming to luncheon is educational. So there are so many things to learn about heart disease that many of our events, and they're very broad, they have a broad appeal. All of us can
Right.
have some kind of connection to heart disease between our families or our friends. And certainly all of us have a reason to become more heart healthy, to
Correct,
think about
correct.
prevention and think about those things that we can do.
So increasing the awareness of that we can do more.
Absolutely,
To,
absolutely.
You know,
Yeah, and many of our fundraising, our events and other things are about raising awareness.
Right.
And really, it's about prevention. It's not just helping. It is about helping those that have had heart attacks and strokes and to live longer, healthier lives. But it's also about prevention. Let's not ever go down that path.
Right.
How can we stay healthy?
right. Now, you have an interesting slogan, or at least in some of your website and literature, is rise above heart failure thing, and it's this awareness thing. You have courses of training that educate people on that. I have a quick 30-second story. I was on a plane here 3 or 4 months ago, earlier this year, and a lady across the aisle, a young lady, she jumps up. She took off her seatbelt, jumped up, and 2 rows ahead, a gentleman slumped over, and they took him, loosened his belt, and they put him on the floor, and to a flight attendants. But this young lady, young athlete,
Yeah.
I think she was a volleyball player or
Yeah.
something, she started CPR.
Wow, that's-
And they brought an AED, or is that it?
Defibrillator,
Yes,
right, which
yes.
will shock your
Automatic,
heart. If you're-
external, yes.
Yeah.
The flight attendant that went to the front brought the co-pilot and so on. So there a lot of activity
Fantastic.
going on in
Yeah.
here. And between this young lady and the flight attendant, the 2 of them, and it was this young lady that was before the defibrillator.
Yeah.
She was doing most of it.
She was
and
saving his
very
life.
impressive.
Yeah.
She said right after that she had just taken a course
Wow.
at American
Oh,
Heart.
God, it's wonderful.
And,
The stories gives me goosebumps.
No,
They do. They do.
and she was right across, and they had to decide whether they were going to land the plane at some closer airport or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But it was an interesting story because I think she had a card that she showed the flight attendant
Wow,
that she
isn't
had
that great?
just finished that.
Well, we have something we can be very proud of in Connecticut and in many states across the country. One of the things that the Heart Association has been working on, not only do we train many people in CPR, but in the state of Connecticut, we just passed some legislation that will require CPR and to learn CPR as a high school graduation requirement.
Excellent.
So we're creating, millions of lifesavers every year. There will be more and more students, a whole generation of
Yeah.
lifesavers, because it really can make a difference. And CPR is a little different. People used to go to a certified class to be certified, and it was an 8-hour class, and it was very
Right.
involved. But that's everyone doesn't have to do that now. Anybody can do CPR, whether or not you have a card that says
Right.
you're certified.
Right.
And you can learn CPR simply, even on our website, and using hands only. People used to be afraid to do breaths with strangers.
Right.
But the fact is that you can do the compressions,
yeah.
and that can help, because it's really about giving that person more time. So you can circulate
Saves a
the
lot of
oxygen.
lives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is amazing. I love to hear
Yeah.
those stories
Yeah.
and share those stories, because everybody should know how to do CPR. You don't have to go to a class. You don't have
Right.
to be. Some people have to go to classes.
I was not
Anybody can
aware
do
that
it, yeah.
that is, now that's passed, that is a requirement then?
Now it is in Connecticut. It was just passed, and it's been over half the states in our country have now passed legislation.
not
That's
know
been a
that.
huge advocacy
I did
effort
not know that.
from the American Heart Association,
Now
because we
my-
know it'll save lives.
Yeah,
It
my
absolutely
son and my youngest daughter, coaching in soccer, they would have to take these long
Right,
6-hour
they would be
courses and
required. Many
everything.
people do,
Yeah,
from a
yeah.
lifeguards, anybody in a safety capacity
Yeah.
would still have to be certified. But any of us can learn it. It takes 2 minutes, if even, to
Yeah.
learn how to do CPR. So
Well, the biggest killer, the most deaths a year, if we have between 2.5 and 3 million people dying every year, more people die of heart failure and heart-related disease than cancer and respiratory combined.
yeah, all forms.
And when we look at that, and I didn't think about this until Sharon and I were just visiting. The aging of America on the Philanthropic, the Chronicle, the aging of America, 10,000 people are retiring every day. This, we're not at the front of baby boomers, but we're in the middle of this baby boomer retiring and so on. The aging of America. Well, in a very short period of time, we're going to have 40% more in the next 5 or 10 years that will be facing these heart difficulties. And the research that's being done now, we know because of obesity and diabetes and a lot of things that just exacerbates
And that's
the
just
issue.
to drive the cost of healthcare up, or the money that we're spending on healthcare is just going to increase exponentially. But that's one of the reasons for prevention. You were mentioning heart failure. One of the current strategically focused research projects is on heart failure. So we fund all kinds of research into heart disease and stroke, but we're really focusing on currently focusing funds on heart failure because it affects so many people.
Right.
And how can we not only prevent it, but how can we help people who have heart failure
Right.
to live, have a good quality of life
Right.
and have a longer
Right.
life, that it's not such a terrible condition to live with.
Right. And I've read in the past that the length of time, a hospital stay, and the effort to shorten that stay, and just the cost of this whole process is very great, and we're making inroads. But 25 to 30% of American Heart's budget or whatever goes to research. Is that
just
close?
under 25%.
Okay.
So yeah, we do.
Okay.
It's $3.7 billion since 1949.
Wow.
We are second only to the NIH, to the government, in funding
Yeah.
for cardiovascular
Yeah.
research. And one of the
Go ahead.
One
Go
of the
ahead.
great things about the American Heart Association is that we fund a lot of beginning researchers. So folks who have, the NIH grants are the big, huge grants that you
Right.
get, but we want to get those brilliant minds into research. And the only way you're going to get into and stay in research is to be funded.
The
So we
grants.
have a lot of
Grants,
grants
yeah.
that are specifically geared towards developing a researcher's career path so that they stay in the field. And because these are brilliant people, there
Yeah.
are plenty of things that they can do. We want to keep them in research, an area where they can really have an impact.
Right.
So we have a lot of that's one of the things that we're very proud of, is developing those researchers along their career path and moving into NIH grants. We have 13 Nobel Prize winners that were originally or were Heart Association funded at one time. So very proud of our research.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, now I have to, this is a program where we don't talk about legalese, we don't talk about all the technical stuff. but I have to get in. I mean, here's a charitable estate planning director. We got to talk about bequests and trusts and charitable gift annuities.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me, share with me, and I subjected Sharon to the non-rehearsal part of these shows and everything, so I really haven't had meaningful conversation about some of the things I'll ask her, but you know me, I want to tie some of these together, that there are ways to gift that we need to talk more about. And are you seeing more charitable gift annuities or fewer, or do people know about them?
Well, we are seeing more, but I don't think people know enough about them. We're seeing more charitable gift annuities because interest rates on things, you have a fixed income
Right.
with a charitable gift annuity, and other things like CDs and some of your savings plans really aren't doing it.
Correct.
So for people who want that fixed, sure amount of income,
Lifetime income.
yeah, that lifetime income, the rates really aren't doing much for them. And charitable gift annuities can provide them a great source of guaranteed income,
Yeah.
stable income
Yeah.
for their entire lifetime.
What's your experience on the size of the average gift annuity?
Well, it's interesting. We have them that go the entire range. Our minimum is $5,000.
Okay.
And frankly, some people start at $5,000 just to give it a taste.
No, that's good.
Just to try it out.
No, that's good.
And find out, well, okay, this was an easy process, and I am getting my checks, and wow, I got this income tax deduction that really saved me some money also.
Right.
So they give it a try. They put their toe in the water, and many of our gift annuitants have multiple gifting, not just with us, but with other organizations
Yes.
as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So it's a nice way of taking where we find some of our donors who are already planning to, maybe they've supported American Heart all of their lives. They might want to do something in their estate, but they also might want to have some lifetime income now.
Correct.
So sometimes they have some assets or a little bit of extra money that they would like to give now and get that income. Maybe they don't want to give it away entirely. They want to have that income coming, and I certainly can't blame them for that.
We just did a calculation for a lady, and the 7.6% was our calculation.
Yep.
And when I tried to explain the fact that all of it wasn't taxable,
Right,
that there was an
right.
exclusion ratio.
Much of it, right.
She says, is it legal?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why I think some people are a little, they just have some questions. Well, how can this be? There are so many great benefits.
Yeah,
There's got to
yeah.
be a downside to it.
Yeah.
And-
I
and-
I have a lady who's been a client for quite some time, and she bought into the concept of, she put her foot in the water, okay?
Yeah.
And she's on her 8th or 9th charitable gift annuity, and about every other year, she'll jump in with
Yeah,
another gift
yeah.
annuity and everything.
Well, the great thing is because your rate goes up each year. As you get older, the
You
rate
get
gets
older.
higher,
Right,
so
right.
it helps to stagger them a little bit
Right.
and build a little income.
Bequests.
Yeah.
This is unfair. Well, I didn't tell you this would be easy. And this is just my observation. Tell me
Yeah.
if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
We deal a lot with a lot of other charities, and I have some favorites. And I look at some of these charities. One, I want to know how much of the dollar is going to the cause.
Of course,
And
yeah.
American Heart is they stand very high.
Yeah.
But American Heart, representing the greatest number of deaths in a year, and all of the research and the awareness and everything that we're trying to do, and but you know, we look at this aging population. We look at 40% more will
Right.
will die from that, and I look at bequests. And if I'm wrong, you correct
Okay.
me. Okay.
All right.
American Heart doesn't seem to get the percentage of their total from bequests that other charities do. Is that just my...
We actually do get we get a very healthy chunk of our revenue each year comes from estates and bequests.
Okay,
So we're
okay.
certainly happy about it. Would we love to have more folks include us in their estate plans? Absolutely.
Okay.
A lot of our revenue does come from our events, direct mail. We have a lot of people that support us in many different ways.
Oh,
But-
in other
Yeah,
areas,
yeah.
you are way ahead
Yeah.
of some, especially events and your contributions,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like Nick on your annual giving and
Yes,
everything,
right,
because
right.
those are loyal givers,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But I was talking about charitable gift annuities, and you know, I intend to give American Heart when I die in my estate or my will or whatever. I might as well get that income now.
Absolutely,
so
right.
they're carving out some of that.
Yeah.
But I read a letter here 2 or 3 programs ago about a lady that changed. She was one that watched. She says, "Bob, I did
Oh,
go to my
good,
attorney and
good.
change my will from $1,000." She and her husband's deceased. $1,000 in a will that they did in '82 or '83 or something like that, to 5% of her estate.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So we need more of that. She said,
Yeah.
what we were worth in 1983 and what I'm worth today
Absolutely.
after he died.
Right.
And the children and grandchildren are going to get
Yeah.
their share.
Right.
But she set aside 5%.
Wow,
so
that's wonderful.
The
The
bequest is a
percentages are
wonderful
wonderful.
vehicle.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
to
And the
do-
percentage is great exactly for that point, because as your estate changes, you've still figured out those things that are most important to you, and
Right.
you don't have to worry about, well, what was that amount and is that enough, and some people think, well, what if I don't have that exact amount? And most times they have that and more, but
Right.
the percentage does
Right.
make it easy.
And because of what American Heart is doing, we have a lot of people that wouldn't have made it,
Yeah.
and they're living
Yeah.
longer
Yeah.
and normal lives. but
Absolutely.
that history.
It's not that long ago that there were no stents. There wasn't even, there's certainly people who open heart. We have some of our donors who live up in New England who were patients of Dr. DeBakey, who was one of the,
Really? Really?
the open heart.
Wow.
He started open heart surgery. So it seems like a long time, but it really hasn't been that long that we have had so
That's true.
many advances that have truly changed our lives and the lives of our family and friends
Yeah.
that we care about that weren't possible 25, 30 years ago,
True.
even 10 years ago.
True.
Now we have one of the, for heart valve, you were mentioning heart valves. Now, for some folks, we can replace heart valves through a catheter. No more open heart surgery. So it's just
Not as invasive.
It's replacement. They're not taking out so it's no open heart surgery through a catheter, which is just amazing when you consider recovery time and the ability for just all that
Wow.
less stress on your system. And those are all those things are every day. There's something new and incredible that
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
learn about, which is really important.
One of my former managers in an earlier career, had a heart transplant
Yeah.
and lived 14 years, I believe.
It's amazing. And that heart transplant started through American Heart Association
Yeah.
funding. Many things that we rely on today started because of bequests and event support and other things that helped to support that research and began those new questions
Mm-hmm.
and those, helped to find some answers.
And did I ask you about Connecticut Plan Giving Group? And
You didn't? No,
okay.
not yet.
I've been trying to bridge advisors and development for a
Yes.
long time, and we talk about those two cultures or entities trying to share each other what they need, because each can benefit
Absolutely.
from that.
Yep.
A development position is a difficult job. I mean, you, for 22 years being with the Heart, my experience is that there is so much to do, so many people to see,
course. Yeah.
so many things, and passion is a big part of it. Obviously, you have that. But how do we communicate more with people? I try to do it with this crazy
You're
thing
right.
here, but everybody knows I'm crazier than hell. So, and
I like
this
that
is
about you.
this is a program where we didn't have props, and Karen asked about no props or anything. But
You don't want to tell them about showing everybody you had a heart, you were going to...
no, I was going to do that. But how can we do more? How can planners, how can other people in the community, volunteers. There was something I read, 20 million volunteers for the American Heart.
Oh, it's amazing what our volunteers do. We couldn't do
The events and
just
everything.
a small percentage of what we do without volunteers.
Yeah.
They're our leaders. They're the ones on the ground actually
Right.
making things happen.
Right.
So we
In their time and commitment. That is philanthropy in a different sense.
Yeah.
And if we quantify the number of hours, the value of those hours, those are billions of dollars.
It's incredible.
Billions of
It
dollars.
absolutely is. We could, and many organizations could not do what they do without volunteers.
Correct.
And I think people have a stage of how they interact with organizations, and when they're young, even though they have a million things going on, their time is the thing that they can give up
Yeah.
the most. They might
Yeah.
not feel they can contribute as much as they'd like, but their
that's
time
true.
makes a huge difference.
That's
and then
true.
sometimes you are at a different stage of life when you don't feel that perhaps you have the time or the ability, and you might want to change that, or you might have the capacity to give a little more. It's
Yeah.
all important. It all makes it happen.
Well, you have, we're dealing with three generations, and that older generation is younger in a lot of respects, okay? And the middle generation, Oreo generation.
Yeah.
But some of the younger, the millennials and Xers and so on, because of mom and dad and because of grandparents, they will participate as volunteers in some of these
Oh, absolutely.
activities.
Right, yeah. It's fun. And it's all about how you can engage people. We try every way we can to help there be plenty of opportunities for volunteers. That there's if you have an interest and you have a passion for what we're doing,
Yeah.
trying to help people with heart disease and stroke, there's a role for you somewhere with whatever your talents are, your time, your interests. And that's many organizations really work hard to try and do that because they know without volunteers you can't be
Well, you have a
successful.
tough job.
Yeah. Well,
real
it's a
quick.
fun job. It's good. It's a good job.
Real quick, we got to finish up. It goes fast.
Already, it does
goes
go fast. Yes.
I know that the great research work that's done because of grants and everything from American Heart, that we're not only talking about our own people, we're talking about that research benefiting the whole world.
Absolutely.
Because heart disease, not just in this country, but across
It's
the
global.
globe.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
there's a lot of ripple effect, if I can
Sure.
say it that way,
Absolutely,
on,
yeah.
on the good research that's
Yeah.
done by some of these really ingenious, bright people.
They really are. They're bright and they're also passionate. It's
Passionate
not
about
just
it.
a career they might. I've talked to plenty when they grew up, they had a cousin who had a heart condition, or they had somebody in their life had heart disease, and
Yeah.
that drove them
Yeah.
to say, I don't want that to happen for other people.
I'm remiss in not devoting a couple minutes, and I apologize, talking about young children. That we're just not talking about older people,
Sure,
but we
absolutely.
have younger people that have
Yep,
heart problems. I
absolutely.
appreciate you
Thank
taking
you
the
so much.
time
Thank you.
and putting up with my craziness and
Oh,
that kind
it's
of
a
thing.
pleasure.
But
It absolutely
you're doing
is
a
a
great
pleasure.
job with a great organization, and we just need to do more.
Yeah.
We just need
Get the word out. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, great.
Thanks.
Thanks, Bob.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.